Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Today it's an oil. It's all about a Thames barge at Pin Mill. So let's not hang about, let's get on and let's see what happens. Hi everybody, welcome back. As I said at the start, it is an oil painting, and I've got to say before I get going that a big apology to all my subscribers who tune in for my oil demonstrations. I have left you a little bit short on oil painting demos of late, so let me say apologies, and today I have made amends. I wanted to do a little painting all about barges at a Pin Mill. I love the area. I've been there a few times and it's a haunt of a big hero of mine, Edward Seago. So I just wanted to see what happened with that. Now I'm not actually going to do a full sort of tutorial. I just want to have a natter and chat about different things as I go and just see how the painting develops. But I do hope that you get something from it and enjoy the process and watching me create the mixes, etc, etc. So before I go into that though, let me just say a big thank you to all my subscribers, and if you're not a subscriber, please consider doing that. It really does help me grow the channel to a much wider audience, and it doesn't cost you anything to do it. It's just a click and it's there. And if you get to the end of this video, and I hope you do, if you've enjoyed it, give it the thumbs up. And put any questions down, comments down that you like as well. I love reading them, love interacting with people who've enjoyed the video. So yeah, put those down and I'll answer each and every one of them. And if you want a lot more than that, there's always my Patreon. My Patreon is growing. It's got lots and lots of content already on it. And it's also got a very active Facebook community just for my patrons, interact with each other and also have direct contact with me as well. So it's a great platform, it's a great Patreon, lots of videos for you to enjoy and learn from. There's also a Friday night, every Friday night, live stream for you just for my patrons as well. So there's a lot to get involved with. It only costs you $5 or $10 a month to do that, and by doing that you know that you are helping me by contributing and helping me to support all the efforts I do in creating this content moving forward for you to enjoy. So with that said, take a look at it. All the details and all the links are in the show more tab under each and every video that I do. Take a look, hop on over it if you like what you see. Yeah, it'd be great to have you on board. Lovely to welcome you. That'd be fantastic. In the meantime, let's look at this oil. Let's talk about Thames barges. Okay, so this is not your normal view of a Thames barge. It's really up close and personal. And I just wanted to look at the moodiness of the light. I wanted to keep the values really down on this picture. So I have no idea how it's going to turn out yet. So hopefully it will be absolutely fine. Now I'm going to come up quite high with the bow, and I want a lot of area underneath the boat, and it's going to represent, probably actually needs to come over this way a little more. So I'm going to bring it to there. I think that would be a good start. Bring that all the way down there and stop it just this side of halfway, I think. Somewhere like that. Let's have a look at that. See how that fares. And then of course we've got the top of the bow, and we can come back the other way. I want a really big chunky vessel and quite moody in its sort of presence. Big lump of steel and wood, I guess. I'm not quite sure. Some of them were made in both, I believe, and some were one or the other. I'm not too sure, but they are flat bottom, that much I can tell you. And they were flat bottom vessels so that they could navigate up the narrow and shallow creeks. And there's a little boat dinghy sat beside it there. That's why I can't see too much of what's happening. Yes, they were built and designed so they could go up creeks and settle on the bottom of the mud once the tide on the river that they were in would go out. So that's how they worked, and they used to be masses of them working on the east coast of the UK, and you know, sort of plying their goods up and down the coastlines, as it were. Quite a bit of information over the back there. I'm not too sure what all of it is. There is the rear mast, which is all furled up, so let's just take that right out of the picture like that. And then we've got the wheel there somewhere. Let's just put that in. All little suggestions. I'm not actually trying to recreate particular detail. The boat is called Betula, I believe is her name. So let's just look at that coming up. And then there is a big up change to there, and that goes up like that. Just a slight change of the drawing, and then we've got that sort of line coming around there and goes back that way as well. And that will stop a little bit short there and then come out for that side of the bow. And so we've got one line there. Just these are just, I guess, parts of the way that the vessel is made. Plates, metal plates, I'm not too sure. Forgive me if you are extremely knowledgeable about these, and I am showing my absolute ignorance. Here is, you can't see there's like a break in the line, but it's a break created by the bow plane. I think that's what they call this. Great big lump of material that is metal or wood, and that is what, there's one each side, and they are dropped into the water once this is afloat and under full sail. I mean, when you consider how much sail these vessels can carry and use, it's amazing, because you would think that the, you know, one little breath of wind and the whole thing would just turn over. But then in heavier seas they drop these bow plane things in these big plates either side, and they're dropped into certain degrees, I suppose, depending on how much they need to support the vessel from tipping in sea. And just giving that some idea there. And then we've got the furled foresail there coming down to a nice big rope there, and this one's coming down here to support the actually it does meet it, bring it down where it should be, somewhere down there. This can all change. This is just sort of not, you know, it's just seeing where I want to go with something. That, of course, I don't want that line. And then we've got a little bit of structure on the top there, and we've got the more line with a sort of a ball buoy there, and that's connected up to other chains, so that sort of stops there. But then you've got really heavy chains that support and hold this thing as it should be. And there's another one over there, and this is high and dry at Pym Mill. This is sort of all the mud, and the tide's gone out, and the tide goes way off. And I'm going to actually start to draw the posts. These posts are sort of where the hard is. They call it a hard because it is. It's a hard standing that comes up up to the right up to the top of the shore, and boats can be launched and picked up, and tractors can come down there and retrieve yachts in cradles and take them out of the water for whatever purposes they may need. There's a lot of boat builders around here, so that is all very important. Although I think I've got these. They look about right, but they're actually too low. Let's just be a little sensible. Let's just check and put our horizon, or at least our tide level in. That's where the edge of the tide is, and the main center part of the river sort of stands about there. Let's just put that in. So that's our other side of our river. This is the main river, and the River Orwell, and that's the main river, and of course it expands as the tide comes in, I guess, to a point on the other side. I've never been the other side, so I don't know how steep that bank is. It may expand just over this bank here. I'm guessing it may just be this side, because of course there will be quite a unique situation with a place for boats on the other shoreline. I don't really know, I'm guessing. So I'm going to put that in there. So that's where the post should be. Let's just put these up a little higher, like that. another one, and another one to end that. And there's a couple of little boats, and we're going to put those in at the end. There's a couple of nice chains. This one that comes along here meets into a couple that come this way, and they disappear into the mud. And you've got another one that goes through there. It gives a nice line and a nice lead-in line to the vessel. I quite like the way this is looking. I hope I can bring off the moodiness. That's what I aim to do. Now I'm going to put in some of the sort of distant hill shapes that come through the back here. Now this is where you've got to be quite keen-eyed. You've got to get that right there because it comes across there, but then you've got some upstand of something here, and then you've got the wheel there, and whatever is going on behind there almost disappears behind that, and then continues across the top end of the boat there. And we want to get this about right, so let's take that through. Let's take a line through here, and let's say that that's the way the river is disappearing. We've got the shore, this line here, which will continue on coming out somewhere about there, and then we've got the channel of the River Orwell, and then of course we've got that might go up a little bit. One good way of doing it is just take this piece of wood out and give myself a rough idea that we are pretty much where we should be. Now this one, if anything, could come down a little bit. Bring it down as a suggestion. The top one's fine, quite happy with that. And this line of hills, and don't forget, this is all going away from us as well, so it's going to sort of get narrower and more distant as it disappears towards, I believe, Shotley, if I'm not mistaken. I believe if you keep going that way, I did another painting of Shotley way down the coast and way further down the River Orwell, and I felt that is where this extends to. Now I'm just going to come in with a little movement on the thing with a bit of solvent in there, a little bit of English distilled turpentine, and I'm just going to sort of suggest for myself, if for no other reason, just a little area here and in a few places that suggest the puddles emanating where vehicles have gone, and you can see the furrows from tractors and other sort of machinery that's gone through there. But this is where the yin-yang of lights and darks are really going to work for me. If I can bring this off, I'm going to be ever so pleased. I've got to say, ever so pleased. It's I've been thinking about doing this for quite a while, and I just wanted the moodiness of it. So I'm going to come back in now, and I'm going to be using a slightly larger flat brush than the one I've just had, something like that. Give it a bit of moisture, clean off this. Here we don't need that anymore, that can disappear. And let's come in with our real darks. Now our real darks for this boat, they're quite cool. In this shadow side they're quite cool. Very warm and dark in here, but very cool on this side. So let's look at that first and foremost. Take these brushes out of the way. And my colour choice as well, if you know my colour palette, this is Burnt Umber. This one is Oxide of Red. Its alternative is Burnt Sienna, and they're very, very similar colours. This is just a lot more transparent than this one. Then I've got Yellow Ochre and Indian Red. I love this. It's quite a cool red. It's quite a great one for some distant violets and purples in hills and stuff at different times. This is the only green next to this one that I'm using. This is a turquoise, genuine turquoise from Michael Harding, and this is Phthalocyanine green. Now, I think they call it blue shade, but it's certainly a very, very dangerous green to have on your palette, because if you get it wrong and you put too much of the mix into anything, it will just completely annihilate everything. Yes, so watch this one, use with caution. This is my Ultramarine Blue, my Cobalt Blue, and this is the bedfellow to this one. This is Phthalocyanine Blue. Fantastic blue for some sky, especially when you put a zinc white into it, a mixing white. This is a new one for me. I'm playing around with it at the moment, and it's Rose Madder. I'm not 100% sure about it yet, but it's very transparent and it's got very, very low tinting. So I'm not sure. I'm looking at it, I keep playing with it, and one of these days I'm going to decide to throw it out or keep it in the mix. This is one, however, I always use, and this one is Magenta, followed by Cadmium Red Light, Cadmium Orange, Cadmium Yellow Deep, Cadmium Yellow, Cadmium Lemon Yellow, Indian Yellow, Zinc White, and Titanium White. Now, why so many yellows? Well, I do like the yellow ranges, and I like the cooler yellow of lemon, but I like keeping Indian yellow on there because it's a transparent yellow. So if you mix transparent yellow with a transparent blue and also corresponding a transparent red, then you're going to get the closest you can get to a black. And that's why I keep things like this one on there at the moment, which is the rose madder. I've also got the two blues here that are very, very transparent, and so too is magenta, to be honest, but the oxide of red is, and so you've got lots of options to get those primary colors in transparent form and make them work for you in your painting. Okay, before I gas on too much, let's start looking at some of the color mixes. I am going to use some Indian yellow, and I am going to use some of this color, this rose madder, and I'm going to use a little bit of the blue. Now that blue is very, very powerful, as you can see, so I'm going to use this as a red, and I'm going to come back in with some more of the blue, test it out, see, that's quite strong. I quite like that, and it's still keeping some of the blue characteristics in the mix. So let's just come in here now and put that very strong shape in. I can come back over with my little line further into the painting should I wish to. For this moment, I just want to create the sense that I'm looking for in the depth. Now it's a little bit on the green side, gotta say, but it's the nature of the blue, so I can combat that. If I don't like that mix overall, let's come in with a different one. Let's come in with magenta. Let's look at some of the blue, and let's look at some oxide of red. Now that is giving us quite a different color. Let's just come over the top of that. I can do that, it's not a problem. I can just come in there now. I'm going to bring that all the way down. It takes my green away just enough. And let's put the same color right the way. Let's mix this all together so we don't know where that little tender starts and stops. But I don't want this to be a very long and labored painting. I'm trying to get the essence of this thing down pretty darn smart and get it sorted out so that we can then get the painting completed in, well, for me, probably record time. But let's see how we go. It could not be, may not be. Let's take that through there, and I'm going to leave just a little suggestion of where the edge of that is. As that's only from my point of view, for no other reason. Let's take that all the way up there, and let's take that through to the front or the bow. Take that line. See how thin that paint becomes. They're transparent, so they're quite low tinting, and they don't have an awful lot of body. So you can find yourself leaving a lot of brush marks where you may not want them. Take that all the way along through here. Trying to cover ground as fast as I possibly can. I'm avoiding the phthalo blue, if honest. I think that was a poor choice on my part. So yes, if you're following along with this, then avoid phthalo blue at this point. We just need to keep our, I'm going to leave a little mark there. Probably that's a little low, so I'm actually going to take my finger and lose some of that there. Just want to leave a little circle to indicate where that boy's got to go. There we go. And a little edge there just to tell me where that plate is in relation to everything else. And you can see here it's getting a little bit on the warm side, too much violet coming in. So let's put a bit of cobalt into that, and let's come back in with further mixes over the top. If you find you're getting too red, then just bang in some blue straight in over the top of everything. It will soon sort itself out. But the thing is that when you get all the other colours working, all the lights that are surrounding this, then all of a sudden these colours are very dark anyway. Even if they weren't as dark as they are now, you could very quickly get them that way. I'm going to now put in a sort of shape that will be not only the mast is going to have to come down. Let's put a straight mark in for the mast. I've got it a little bit further back than it should be really, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. Could bring that down to there, just bring it up a tad, and then just lock in all this area here, which is all the furled sail. Let's bring it in that other boom. I don't know what the names of these are actually. I'll be careful. And let's bring that down through there. Just moved it ever so slightly. That was my decision as I came in with the paint, just to move that a little bit. That's where the foresail is all furled up against the rope. I'm not going to worry too much about things like that, nor this. This can go in later. And I want to put in now, I'm going to use the same colour, but I'm going to add quite a bit of orange. I think that's the right choice. Let's bring in the orange. Let's see what happens to this dark. I want it quite dark and I want it quite warm. But I can lighten it more up along the road if I wish to. But I just want to get this dark in. Even a bit darker there would be good. Take that all the way down there. Bring that all the way across to meet it. And that's the edge or the front of our bow. I'm going to end up with a crisp line down there, I hope, or at least the suggestion of a crisp line. Let's take that down there. And we've got a lot of light coming that side, so I'm just going to bring that down very carefully to there and just leave it at the moment, just see where it is. I'll put a bit of a dark area there and just see what that looks like in a minute. In fact, I might just take that, because there is a shape to the hull and it's not easily seen. There is like a bit of a scoop in there and there, but you don't really see it too well in this photo. It is there, but we shall see if that needs to be altered. But essentially this is a flat bottom vessel, as I say. Alright, let's carry on. Let's move forward as fast as possible. I want to get the skies in. One thing I actually have forgotten before we go any further, let's just put this rear mast into place, just so we know it's actually gone off. We've gone off a little bit of a skew angle there. Just straighten that up a little bit. That's very, very wet too. I just realised how much fluid was in my brush. And that's the trouble. When you're painting an oil, especially if you're using oil solvents or oil-based solvents like the one I'm using here, which is Zestep. Good product, but it does have the tendency to stay up in the bristle. And if you haven't cleaned it enough, I mean, just doing that may not be enough. Just clean it a bit more. Dry it out a bit more, because if it does, you get a lot of paint fluid mix, and it makes it quite fluidic on the paper, on the canvas, and it's not necessarily what you're seeking. So let's just come back in and let's just put in our mast and try and get it a bit straighter this time would be good. Okay, that's good. And let's come there, because it is again got a furled sheet around it like that. Okay, now moving forward, let's get our sky in while we can. So for that, it's a very beautiful evening. There was no cloud. It was just a gentle ambient reduction of light on a blue sky. So I'm going to come in with some phthalo blue. I'm going to put a little bit of the green in that. Not sure if that's going to work just yet. I'm going to use quite a lot though of zinc white. Now zinc white, a lot of people are unsure of because they worry about it cracking in time. I've never had that experience at all, to be quite honest with you. I'm just going to add in a temperate. I want to knock it down a bit with a little bit of violet colour into that. Just a little bit. You can see how the rose madder has an effect, but it is not a huge effect. But anyway, back to zinc white. It can, by all accounts, it could possibly crack in time. Depends how thick you have it. I don't paint thickly. It's never worried in 35, 40 years of painting. It's never worried one of my paintings. Not that I've heard of. But it's worth bearing that in mind, that you could end up having an issue. So just watch for that. I put a lot of titanium white in this right at the last minute. I'm going to take that across to meet that, and it's going to get quite pale on this side quite quickly. I've got a lot of other paint in there I don't really want, so let's take some of that out because it is influencing my mixes. I come across with a lot more white into this side. I just want to keep this side quite bright, suggestion that the day is sort of slowly ebbing away, and the sun is giving way to the evening. I'm going to bring that down. I'm going to add some yellows into that very soon. I'm going to pick up a little bit more blue as we come through this side here. Not too much, they don't need to be a complete change, otherwise it will become too noticeable. So I'm going to take that down so far to there, and then continue on into there, and through here, the other side of that boom, whatever it's called. And again to the rear sail. Check my values, check my colours as I come down. See that already there and there's a big jump. So let's bring this one back and this one back further still. There. Okay. Quite thick at the moment, the paint. I'm not too worried about that. I never paint that thickly, so I start sort of tweaking, you know, getting a bit worried when I see too much thickness going on, I suppose. But let's come back in with a bit more deeper blue colour in here. I'm going to actually add a little bit of cobalt to that mix, just to knock it down a little bit into the blue. But somehow I keep picking up there, I don't know what that is. Anyway, I did say I was going to have a bit of a natter, and I haven't actually done that yet. But I'm sure I ought to. Really, I can't think of what I want to speak about. My head's full of this painting right now, which is not a bad thing, I suppose. But as I say, we're coming out of lockdown, and my gallery is reopened in Hythe, and that's great. I mean, I've been sort of pushed up against it a little bit, I suppose, in sort of maintaining everything on the online front, as it were, through the website, the painting channel, and everything else that I'm involved with regards to painting and teaching. And so I also had to consider getting everything tidied up and changed around and everything sorted out in the gallery, ready to open last week. I did. I managed. All is good, and it was a positive response. It was nice to see people, friends and clients again, and that, I've got to say, is always a lovely thing to have. Now then, there is a colour that I'm missing, and I see it there. This is probably one of the only colours that I put on here that is not Michael Harding's, and that is a Winsor & Newton colour, and it's called Joan Brilliant, and it's a little bit like Naples Yellow, but it's not Naples Yellow. I use that quite a bit in some of my skies, especially as the day descends and it gets a little bit warmer, a little bit yellowy. I want to put some of that in now and see how that works. Quite happy with that. Just want to take the colour into the rest of the sky. I'm going to certainly bring it that way through this vessel, and you can see how the paint will pick up if you're not careful. So just be aware that you are coming down next to this dark material, and if you come too far, you're going to pick up the dark and deposit it right smack in the middle of your light paint. So tread a little carefully. It doesn't hurt. There we are. We got away with that, I think. Just enough to do the job. Let's bring some through here too, so that we carry on the idea and the effect that we sought in the beginning. Take that down through to there, and we will come across here with the light, and you see I already just started to pick up a little bit there. Not enough to worry about, to be quite honest. Take that down to there, down the side of the vessel to there, and that's where our sky will come out. Maybe even a little bit of Indian yellow, just a smidge. Just a smidge. Doesn't want much. Just sort of really bleach out that sky into the blue there. That's quite nice. I like that. I'm going to come leave that all the way down, and that will be into our hills. Just going to blend some of this together a little bit, so that it's not, I don't blend so that you can't see. I don't want to make it seamless. I want to see paint marks. I want to see the brush marks that I've done, and so I will leave brush marks in the mix. But I just want to have that lovely sort of glow of the water, of the sky, and I'm going to bring I'm going to leave that a little bit for a minute. I'm just going to come across here with some more of that Jaune Brilliant in there. I do love this colour. I rely on it so much for different things over the years. I would hate it if Windsor stopped making it. I would be lost, I think. It's one of the few colours that I've gone from one palette. I change my palettes at different times, and I try colours, and I put another colour in, and I take one out, whatever it might be, for whatever reason it might be. But I test colours, and I think that's one way that I keep my paintings alive and working, is that I can actually create my work, and with the knowledge that I'm experimenting too. I think it's important as artists that we question what we do. I think, you know, by just taking the same colours, the same mixes, even the same genre day in, day out, can cause someone to become quite stale, in my opinion. And I feel that by changing what you paint, how you see and how you do your painting, trying to figure out a different way to create it, a different way of making that mark, and the way that you control colour, and changing colours on your palette to see if you can find answers with other mixes and all these things, because I really firmly believe that painting is about questioning. It's about understanding, and not just giving in to the fact that you can paint a picture, end of. It's not end of anything. The whole thing about painting, in my opinion, is that it's a lifelong practice. It's a lifelong excursion, journey. You've heard these comments from not just me, from other artists forever. It's very common rhetoric, but it is very, very true also, because, you know, we are on a path of discovery, and no artist sits around and says, you know, I know it all, I don't need to do any more. Well, if you did know it all, you certainly wouldn't need to do any more. But the fact is that we never know. We never really know everything. And so from the point of view as an artist, you're always learning. You're always traveling the road of discovery. And I believe that. And it doesn't matter whether you are the art student, the art teacher, the art professor, art connoisseur, whoever you are, you're still learning. You're always learning. And that is the beauty about creativity, is it's a learning curve. And we step upon it from whatever age we get into painting, if that's our desired course, and we don't stop that until the day we pass from this world and into the next. And yeah, whatever your belief system is, it doesn't matter to me. But the fact is that that point is when we change and stop learning, and not before. That's my belief anyway. You don't have to agree with it. I'm not saying you have to at all. It's just the way I believe things. Alright, enough of this rambling. Let's carry on and look at the sky's pretty much blocked in and done. I don't think, unless I have a disaster, that I need to change too much of that. I'm going to use some of this phthalo blue up though, but I'm going to really mute it down. I'm going to use some cobalt, some turquoise in there, but I'm going to use some Indian red in there, and I'm going to shift it down again. Now look at the power of that red over all that green and blue. That green and blue just a minute ago was extremely vibrant, extremely powerful, but by putting in a red, look how it's grayed it down. Now to that I can mix in as much white in the terms of a mixing white to lose some of the energy of that dark to a grayer or a cooler grey. I can bring in a little touch. Now be careful at this stuff. This is a little bit of phthalo green and it is completely full of energy, and if you want to temper it, just temper it, not necessarily with white, but come back in now. As you can see, I'm mixing a little bit of Jean Brilliant into that. Turns it into a delicious grey green, but you've got control. And you saw how much of that phthalo green I put in. Just a little bit. Doesn't want much and it'll run away with you. That's still very, very light as a colour. I'm going to keep that, but I'm going to come in first and I'm going to put in some of this dark into that mix. Just want to take that down a bit first before I come in too much with some light. So let's just put all that in. Let's observe our nice line through there. And if I'd picked up a bigger brush, I actually would have been happier, but I didn't. So we'll live with that. Not a problem. This is the far hills, or the side of the river away from us, of course. And there's going to be some warm patches in, but I'm just going to mix it up. I don't want to try and paint individual trees. I just want to get this bashed in, as it were, as fast as possible, so that you can see that there is trees and growth and all sorts of stuff on that far distance. I will come in with some warmer greens. The green that I had, I feel, is a little bit too on the cool side, so we'll play around with that further in. Now you see how I'm touching all that white and it's coming into my mix. Be aware. And I want to put in a little bit of put a bit of cadmium yellow into that mix, and a little bit of burnt sienna, just a tad, not too much. Warm some of these colours up as they come across the back of the vessel. The sun is setting, don't forget, so there are some warm values in that distance. Now bring that up to the back of the boat. Now you can see the value change between the back of the boat here, and I've got that little bit of blue to put in, so I've got to be aware of that. I don't want to lose that. I nearly painted right through it, believe it or not, but there you go, we just about saved it. Coming through what will be the warehouse, you can't, or parts of the world there, and you can't really see much of the hills beyond there, and they disappear around this sort of area here. So we're just going to give that a suggestion, and then we come back here where they are getting much cooler, and as they go away from us down the coast like that, and let's just pop those in, just being aware of our shorelines going away from us, and put a little bit more warmth into a little bit of that there. And that's it. That's all it needs, I think, he says. I want to put a cooler colour in some of that, but I want to come through here with a bit of a warmish, sandy, suggestion of a sandy or lighter shore on that far shore. Just a little sense of it, a little indication running through there. And you see what I was doing then? I was actually using my finger and as a brace, this one, and I'm letting it run across the top of the painting surface, and it is giving me a control that free hand up above here I wouldn't have such great control. Hopefully that will be enough control, but you get the idea. I'm going to come in with some of these warmer values that suggest some trees and bits of growth in there that I didn't do the first time around. A little bit of orange, a little bit of yellow, just to warm up one or two senses of some trees on the other shore. Just little taps. I'm not actually painting trees, as you can see. I'm just painting taps of colour and little blobs, but that's all it needs, just to give you a sense of woodland and whatever. There's actually a building across there. I can't see enough of it to make out exactly what it is. It's quite a large building, some sort of school or something on the other side there. I'm going to put a should I alter, I suppose, put a little bit of a suggestion, a bit of dark around the end of it, suggesting an eave, something like that. It doesn't need to be much, and I can't really see what it is, if I'm honest, anyway. So I think we've done enough to get away with that and just suggest what's there. So just continuing on with this theme as it comes down through here, and 1 or 2 taps further and we're done. That's it, sorted. Doesn't need a lot. I think we've got enough information here on that far shore. Alright, so moving swiftly on then, let's look at the sea. Now I'm going to come in with some of that greenier colour. I want to see, I'd rather have my sea darker, but I'm going to put in some of the red back into that. Just want to knock it down a shade or two to quell the colour. That's better. You see how that colour is just a little bit more subdued by adding that red into it. Just being careful, I want to get a nice even line across there if I can. Just take my time and use my finger again, just come along, support the mark and carefully, steady as she goes, like that. Take that right up into the stern. And there. Now from that point we can lighten the sea, we can go with our water any way we like. I'm going to put some more down through here, same colour, but it is a base colour. You can see that already that it is somewhat darker than the photograph is suggesting. But now I can come in with some paler colours. Using some of these sky colours here, I can reflect that into this part of the water moving through here. Now I've painted out all my posts and stuff, but I can still roughly see where they are, and at the end of the day they were merely an indication. They weren't sort of set in stone at that point. Just going to even up my line, make sure I've got a nice crisp line as best I can through there, and be happy at leaving that. Take that down, just shape the back end of the vessel and take it to there. Now I'm going to bring that down a little lighter in a moment, but I want to get this area, which is quite a bit lighter if honest, as it's going away from us. As the sky becomes lighter on this side, so too does the water on this side as well. So let's come back in right up to the vessel's side, take that through there and take that all the way down that way, like that. And we've got that side of it done as well now. Alright, so where next? Well, we got everything done down so far. I don't know why I've missed that out there. Seem to have missed an area there for some reason. I'm just checking that why I did that. No, I think it was just to preserve the post. So let's go back in very quickly. Let's just get rid of that area there. Make some more darks if we need to. I've actually lost quite a bit of them. So let's just see if we can't quickly put some of that back in. A bit of warmth into it as well. It won't hurt because the rest of it was like that. And let's just put in some and just finish that area back out. There we go. Not a problem. Now I'm not making them as strong as the photographs suggest. And that's the beauty of painting as well. You know, you have a choice when you make brush marks on something. The photograph seldom has a blurred background, unless of course you've got a subject really up close to you, then it will blur the background, which is commonly known as bokeh, and that will happen. But when you take a photograph like the one that you're looking at on this painting, it's quite sharp. The background is sharp, the posts are sharp, the boats are sharp, right up to the foreground is all quite sharp because it's a generic photo of the whole of the scene, and the camera reads for that. So if you wanted to be a little bit more explicit, if you wanted to create aerial perspective just a little easier, sometimes blurring some of that information in the right places, subtle brush mark sweeps across and distorts the edges so they're not hard edges, they become softer or even lost edges. That can really work for you. But that is also a subject for another video, to be quite honest. But to that end, I am just softening off some of these marks, so some will still appear quite sharp, but others generally will become a little hazier, a little softer. especially on this side as they're going away from us. And I think I'm quite happy with the way that that leaves that area to finish off. Okay, so I'm going to put little boats in at the end, not right now. What I've got to look at now is this mud area, and it is quite brownish, of course, but it's actually quite bluish over here. It is dark, that's true enough, but it is still nonetheless quite bluish, quite cool at the back end of this boat. So I'm going to use that now. I'm going to come in here with this line of mud. It doesn't look anything like the mud that you would normally associate. And I'm going to come in with some ultramarine blue into that. Just want to take that blue a little bluer, still a little on the green. There's still quite a bit of phthalo blue in that mix, and it's still having an influence. And I bring that right the way down through to the bottom of the boat, and that little tender there that's sitting moored right next to it, we can cut round that shape now. It was a really ragged shape, but we can cut round that now, and we can develop that area. So where do we go next? Well, it does go off, tapers out, and we lose that, and we come into some more umber. So let's bring our umber into it, and some blue, because I don't believe it's not just umber, it's not too brown, it's a blue brown, so we need to influence it. If anything, it's a darker brown. Okay, let's take that all the way through there now, and take that right the way off to this side like that. Okay, there's going to be some light blue influence right the way through there on the bottom end of the heart, but I'm going to start bringing some of these blue browns, sort of, I'm turning the brush, I'm doing it one that way, because there's brown on, almost brown on one side and blues on the other, and I'm going to avoid some of my lights. I'm going to leave some spaces for them. They may not be the only ones, so I'm not going to come crashing through with everything lost. I just want to put in suggestions at the moment, and it's still able to put the light over the dark further in, and it's easier to do light over dark than it is to have dark over light. That tends to just want to become grey. I put some blue in, some cobalt blue this time, a little bit of magenta, and make it a little bit more purpley, more violety as it cools into shade coming up through here. So I'm just going to tap in and play around with these shapes. Now, nothing is a standard shape or form. I'm just trying to feel my way to make this work as a painting. I want that's got to come through there. I need to lift some of that in a minute with a bit of rag, because that needs to be a bit warmer through there. And I'm going to come in with some blues, some ultramarine blue now. It's a nice warm blue, and some magenta, which is a nice cool red. Together make a fantastic purple. I'm going to bring that all the way down the side of the boat here. This is my sort of fairly light mud, but shadowed mud. I'm going to take that down there, cut that into the base of the boat, and leave that. We're going to put some darks into this, and we're going to put some lights into this. So this is like a mid-tone, if anything. Just going to watch that. Bring that all the way through here. Again, if I'm honest with you, I should be using a bigger brush. I got these out and I don't want to stop the video. I'll tell you what I can do. There you go, I had this one ready. And this is my dagger. Perfect for the job. So let's come back in. Let's mix some punchier paint. And let's get some violets going. Now, if you've got a violet here like this mix here with the blue, I said this ultramarine is a warm blue and the red is a blue red, and together they make a perfect purple. Now, if that's too perfect, too loud, temper it. And the way you temper purple is by using not an orange, which would be for the blue, but you come across to your greens, and you can temper your purple with green, or better still, a yellow, which is its direct complementary, and see how the yellow kills it down. And that way you can control the violet of your colour, and it actually turns a bit brown at this point, so I'm going to have to come across now and change that anyway. but you can literally play around with your violets and your colours by adding complementaries or semi-complementaries. Don't have to be direct complementaries. Semi ones will work just as well too, and you can control how the overall effect, how grey you make your colour. So there we are. You can see that this works very, very nicely actually, because the colour's got reds and browns in as well as the blues, and that's useful to me. And I'm using and leaving some suggestions of the mud trails from the tractors through this, dragging this through and being quite brutal with the brush. I'm not being very fair to the brush, to be honest with you, but I'm just bringing some of these marks into play like that. I'm just going to leave them there. They're not going to be doing too much more. I will come in with some lights and other darks further in. Let's just look at the boat now. Let's just get that sitting on the mud there. There needs to be a bit more of a fusion of darks in there, which I have to put in a short while. Now that I said down here, there was quite a bit of warmth in there, so let's just bring that through there. Quite a bit of warm colours coming out to the back of the vet, that little tender in that point. A bit more dark, a little bit red, a little bit more blue, even more blue, even more blue. Let's just have that dark through there and suggest that again there. So I think that's where I want that to be. And I'm bringing in a few here this way, a few darks overriding some of the purples, but not totally obliterating them, but trying to make them radiate out so that they appear to be becoming wider and bigger as they come to you, and that's the idea there. Now I'm going to have some strong darks, and this is where it gets quite interesting, because we're increasing the dark value now. We're actually taking down our value, and we're going to start stating some really heavy darks into these mud tracks through here. And I'm not saying, and I'm not trying to for 1 minute emulate every piece of track that you see in the photograph. I'm merely trying to give a sense of the tracks as they are going through the mud, and the suggestion of the trails, and just by flicking that each way like this, and you can sort of almost see the tractor trails running through this, and there's some little light colours reflected here like that. Lights and darks, little blues and little darks, and we put some more darks in and some real lights as well. We're nowhere near finished. This is just sort of suggesting it all without stating everything absolutely as it might be in the photo. Now while I'm doing that, I'm just going to come in and I'm going to put in, while I've still got it, I'm going to put in some whites, some of my Jaune Brilliant. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm probably not. That's typical of me. I say something, I think, really? Is that how it should be said? I don't know. Anyway, I don't want that light. That's too light. So let's come back in. Let's mix some blues. It may look white, but it really isn't as light as it suggests or purports to be. So let's just knock that down to this sort of subtle grey colour. I think that might well be closer to the truth. Like that. Take that down through there into some of our little treads into there. And I've got to get, of course, to put in some of the reflections of the mast and things. I'm aware of that. Let's just put some of these colours in. And this is our puddles. I think even more sort of cooler blue colours, especially in this one, seems to be just giving away to the light even more here. Like there, little taps into what will be the mud, and the same on that piece there, like that. A little suggestion of one up there. And a square there will not hurt, all for good measure. Another puddle. and they get lighter. Now this is where I can afford to take them a little paler. They just seem to get a little lighter up here, but I'm actually tapping the brush once or twice just to deposit enough material to suggest them, and no more. If I keep working them, I'm going to lose out and it's going to cost me. It's not going to work and I will regret it. And just there, and I am just going to do that, put a few puddles way back up there, and maybe a little bit more yellow as well, like that. Okay, and just one or two flecks, just dragging that dagger through some of these dark marks once. Don't keep doing it, because honestly it will just dirty up, because it wants to pick up all that paint. It just sees another colour that's fluid and it says, I don't care what colour you are, let's become friends. And then that's what they're going to do. They're just going to mix with each other, and that's going to. So if you're going to do these taps, make sure they are virtually one tap processes. Try and decide where you want to put it and just put it in and just leave it. Just don't keep working on that. A few taps of light over there. I'm going to come in with some more Joie Brilliant. I'm using the end of the dagger. See how that is fully loaded with paint. But I'm just going to come in here and just going to put in a few little marks that are suggesting little eddies of water way off there in the distance on the mud, like that. Not too many, not too much, maybe one or two more through here. And if you're not sure about using the dagger for that, then pick up, let me do it for you, let me show you. Let's just put those down. Let's pick up a rigger, and purpose built for this sort of thing. It's coming with the same sort of colours down here, and we've got that one loaded, and we can come back in here and we can just put in little marks like that. Now the thing about a rigger doing this is it does tend to make you very much more precise, and if you don't mind that, then fine, continue with a rigger. But if you want something that could end up as a happy accident and you don't mind that happening, then that's fine, go for it. And that's when you carry on using the brush that we have been, the larger dagger, because it will do and deliver the same type of mark, but maybe a little more carefree added. I don't know, we'll see. But it's not bad, and you can use both brushes. It just depends how you feel about the brushes. That's all. I'm just driving some of these colours into these marks, trying to have some sort of correlation between the marks being made and what's there. Just a few taps, a few lights underneath that mark there. Now I'm going to leave this area for the moment. I'm just concentrating on this area here, and this blue comes round more. Pick some of the last of that up, and this curves round. Now this part I'm going to leave, but this one I'm going to curve it round here. Not quite in the same way as the photograph. I've got much less of that dark mass at the bottom. But to that end, I'm really not that bothered by that. So I'm going to put that in there. These are my sort of tractor tire tracks, as it were, suggesting anyway. And one or two in there. There you go. They're all over the place. There are lots of them. I suppose if they are meant to be tire tracks, they would be at angles. I've probably got them a little bit wrong, but I'm not worried about that. Just little taps. At the end of the day, it's just an essence of what's there. It's my interpretation. It's your interpretation. It doesn't have to be absolute fact. A lot of people, when they're copying photographs especially, create paintings that become so heavily laboured that the essence of the oil is absolutely lost, because they've just had so much information that they feel they must get down or else they'll have failed. That's not the case at all. It's just a case of enjoying and creating a feeling of what is in the photograph, or if it's plein air, of where you're there, why you're there, and what you're seeing. That's all it is. But I got to stress, everything I'm telling you, everything I'm saying is pretty much my own view on things. I mean, you know, other people out there will have very different views, and I'm not saying mine is the only one at all. That'd be rather conceited. I'm just simply saying that it's mine, and you know, feel free to differ and take me up on any issues that you don't agree with, and that's what it's all about. That's life, isn't it? But hopefully you're enjoying the process anyway. I think that's pretty much where I wanted that sea to be. I just digress for a second then. I'm going to come in with the medium flat. I'm going to put some of those colours like quite a pinky brownish bluish. I'm going to mix up quite a bit of all these together. Just sort of finding some middle ground values that are catching sunlight or dampness in the mud, but they're not necessarily wholly dark, or certainly they're not white or light. They are coming into this area here, forming a edge to that puddle, quite a strong edge there, and there's lots of little tracks running across them. I keep saying this, but I'm not trying to faithfully recreate every puddle, every subtle bits of dirt and mud that you can see in this painting. I merely want to get a feeling for it. I come in with some ultramarine blues into that dark. I'm going to get warmed up with it in a minute, but I just want to get the dark in there to start with. And again, I'm just putting some little track marks in, suggestive that the tractor's been through there recently. I guess it must have been recently, because obviously I'm assuming that the next tide most of these tracks would have disappeared. I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming that the flow and ebb of tide would have destroyed any sense of man creating marks with machine through this mud between tides. So I'm guessing that vehicles have been down on the mud during the course of this low tide. A little bit of warm just to play around with some of these blues, and you create that lovely little bit of yin yang effect between warm and cool. I don't know how long this video has been going on for, but I have had comments lately not to worry about the length of them. I do understand, and I didn't actually know this, that you can, if you didn't want to watch the whole of a long video, you can actually, I'm not sure how, but I think you can speed it up. I think you can. You may not be able to, I may be telling you a fib, but I think you can. So someone said to me, don't worry about doing long videos, because if somebody wants a short one, they can just roll you forward a bit. That's fair enough. I live with that. But hopefully you'll enjoy it enough to watch it, and watch the majority of it, I hope, and catch all the bits of either information or tips that I'm trying to create for you through this and other work. Just tapping like little skips, almost dabbing, to try and create a very rough and ready texture that is tracks in the mud. I'll put some more darks in here very, very soon, and some more information over on this side as well. But for the moment, I think we're just about finished on here. Certainly until the final analysis, then we can come back in and see if anything needs a little bit of extra work. A few darks up here. There's quite a bit of dark up in here, and I'm just coming around with a few extra marks to loosen up some of those that I've already put in, and it gives a sense of direction down there. Quite a bit of warmth in there I've missed. I'm going to put a bit of warmth through there, a little bit of catching the sun, a little glow of sunshine, last of the light, right down here in the mud, down this part here. like that. And we're going to put in the other bits and pieces, the fine detail as such, in a short while, but for the moment we are just playing around with these lines, these marks. Now I've got here, I want to put in a side, just suggesting of a little bit of light there. Not much. But then I want to fuse the two areas together. I want to bring some of this down into this area here, so that you can't quite see where one starts and the other stops, as it were. Okay, bit more blue, bit more dark, just come back in there, a little darker blue. Taking out some of those marks that weren't quite in the right place, and you can't really see too much. There is a little subtle change of blue value, which I'm just going to try and establish that on there, where it turns upwards, slight angle to the shape of the vessel at that point, just enough to give a suggestion of a bit of light touching that. And I think that's probably the only place, because it disappears and actually gives rise to the edge of that bow plate there. So we'll just stop at that. We'll call that a day, and just going to come in. I need to clear my brush. We've got such contamination of colours in there that it's neither one thing nor the other now. Take that away. Let's come back in. Let's remix some blue and umber, or blue and sienna in this case. Make a really rich dark, and I just lost that plate, so I'm going to come back in with that shape there, get rid of that little mark that I'd left earlier, put that in there like so, and we have our plate there back in place, and a little bit of shadow underneath it. Okay. Alright, I'm going to live with that, and hopefully that will be enough to do the job. Now, there is water over here, but of course this water has got a great big boat shadowing and reflection in it. So we don't have white water, we have in effect black water. So let's just put some of that in. And this is suggesting that there is water puddles right up next to the boat here. But they have the full reflection of the vessel in them, and so that's how we see them. A couple of petals coming out around here, and then they will turn. I'm actually going to purposely put a couple in dark like that, and then suddenly turn them to white, where they got this crisp edge, and suddenly catch the sky again. I think that works. Just mess up some of this here so you can't quite see which is a puddle, mud, or dirt, or dark, or the boat hole, whatever it might be. I'm just messing up the information, so I can't quite work it out. It just accepts what it sees, but it can't quite work out the truth. Now there is that rope that comes down through there somewhere, and it comes across the mud here and lays like that. And then we've got a couple more dark areas here. Now all the time I'm touching these darks, they are wanting to become pale grey because of all that lighter colour underneath them. So again, as you did with the white over the mid-tonal dark, you're now going to do one touches with the mud or the dark puddles in there as well. Okay. Enough of that. I don't know where we are time wise. We're probably creeping on. Might be a long video, people. Never mind. I hope you enjoy it. So I'm going to put in just a little bit of red for our marker buoy. Now this is way too light, but it is a really punchy red. So what I can do to that now, I can either dirty it like so, which just makes a brownier colour, or I could actually use a complementary to red, which will be I have to think then green, which will then punch my red apart. Now look how the green, let's do that again. Let's take the red, take a pure piece of that red, and let's punch some green into that and see how that red just becomes a grey. And that really is quite a nice way of taking a shadow. Instead of making it dark, just make it complementary to the colour. And now we've got a beautiful shade to that, and we've still got that light side, and when it comes down to it, we can punch a little bit of light in there and give ourselves that little extra highlight right on the side there. And then we've got our water here, and I'm going to punch in a little bit of that buoy there, a little bit of light catching that, just that sharp orangey bit. I missed it a bit there. Let's come back in, just pick up a little bit of orange, a little bit of the red, just punch in that little highlight in there. That's fine, that's all it wants. Didn't want a lot, just enough to put it in there. And we're going to put 1 strokes in for the rest of this in a minute, but I am just looking at all this area over here which has been neglected. And let's come in, it's quite bluish, bit of warmth, bit of violet into some of that. Let's come across here with this mid-tone colour, a little bit of warmth into it, just to kill it off from the pure purple. So that little bit of browny colour going in just gives the nice effect that I want there of the river as it's going away, like that. Take that down, cut it in and around, right up and underneath the bow, coming under there like so. Nice crisp edge if you can make it happen, will work well. Take that through there, join the 2 areas together, and we can play around with some lights in there in just a little while. What we got to do now is turn our attentions to the boat itself. Let's come back in, let's put some darks up in here which have been omitted a little bit. I went straight for the warm. So let's come in and put some darker values, a little bit cooler there, and make that come through there dark as well, right up to that point there. Let's just shape that up, put that back in, and come across here with the same value coming down there. Possibly there's a top part there, that's it, wasn't there, now it is. Okay, that works. Then we've got our light, so let's look at that light colour. Now I want to say that it's more Indian yellow than light in that sense, but I'm going to come in, I'm going to put some Indian yellow to that. I want it to be a bit warmer, so I'm going to put some red too. Now I'm going to use my whites and my blue colours just to disable some of that yellow from being too powerful. It's bright, it's brighter, but it's not total, it's not complete wipeout. I'm going to use some of that to come down and into that shape there, which is already dark and a little too far. We can clean that up, and then come up the side of the vessel so we get that nice sharp edge of the front, and that one goes off to the side there like that. Okay, now then, there is a shape differential here. You got this little shape I said earlier, and that gets a little bit of light from the mud, so let's just put that in there. I'm using a flat brush for this. I'm trying to be careful, but I'm not trying to be absolute. Take some of that up the side, come down. Okay, now it gets quite a bit lighter right up through here, so we've got a nice top light to there. Let's make that happen, and we've got several shapes here, so we've got one and we've got the second one. I'm just going to leave it like that, and just, I don't want to make too much of them, I just want to make enough of them to make it evident. There you go, one, the second one, and leave it as that. I think there is that nice piece of light on the top, which I think I've just about captured there to the edge, and that's enough. I don't think it needs any more. But what I haven't done yet is I need to bring some light down, some paler blues through here. So let's come back in with a bit of green, a bit of blue, a bit of light, and let's just play around with this. It's not totally light at this point. Bring that right into there and right out like that. We've got a couple of very light parts to put in of water. This is just mud that's really, really, really wet. But there is some yellow now. We're going to come back in with some white and a few yellow marks of the water, like that. Now I will use the rigger, clean that off, make a new mix, bit of fluid to it, make it move a little easier. I haven't done too much talking tonight. I really did. I said this might happen. I planned on doing a painting and a natter. I've done very little nattering, I think. Probably too much for some of you. But I'm not worried about that. I wanted to natter. But I just sort of kept pretty much on topic. So I'm not worried. It is what it is. I'll natter next time. The time you probably won't tune in. Never mind. It's all good. Alright, I'm going to come back in. I want to put in that little touch of light right under there, like that, and another bit just in front of it again there. So we're suggesting little puddles. There is a bit of a rope that comes down through there in a moment, and I want to put a bit of light under it, but I don't want to put it in case I miss it when I put the dark line in. So let's think about that now. We've got quite a few dark marks to put in, so let's come in, make a dark mix up, a little more fluid to make it work off the brush a little easier. There we go. And then I'm going to put in the I just want to give that a bit of a straighter mark there. It's lost a little bit on there, so I'm going to bring that down, give that a sense of where that should be. I think that's a better mark. I'm going to lose that because that's actually not in there. Can't see that too much, and I don't know what all that is on there. Let's get rid of some of that too. Okay, we've got a nice mark there. So what I want to do now is a single mark line down here, which is the anchor, comes down there like so. And you can't see too much. It's a mud anchor, so it's like that, and two big flaps on it that hold into mud, and there is a little bit of a reflection or shadow, cast shadow, sorry, of that. And I'm going to try and put a little highlight. There is a crossbar that can't see that side of it, but you can definitely see that part coming out through there. Let's put that on. There you go. More dark needed because it's turning grey very quickly. And let's try and put in with one mark. Let's try and do this. There we go. Not quite how I wanted it, but it will do the job. Just try and pick it up again. That's the only trouble when coming across all this wet paint, is it's just going to leave a light grey mark. I think we got it. Third time lucky, we got there. Maybe a bit more fluid on it would have helped that easier. There is another rope there. I'm not too fussed about putting that one in. There is this line we've got to put in yet for this one, and the really dark chain that comes across here. In fact, I think there are two of them, I said. So let's put the one in, and that will go across there and up there to meet something else. And there is another one through here laying alongside it, and I think that peels off and goes up that way. Now, I'm not worried about that thickness of brush mark as such, it's just what it is. There is another chain that comes down through here, a bit more dark, and let's just put that in. It's lost out again, so let's just put that back in, reapply some paint to it like that, and then I can put my other mark in that is the light piece that I mentioned just now. So while I've got this dark, let's just look at where this chain comes across here. Let's join this one up there. And this one, I think I said, disappears into the mud somewhere about there. Not too much information. I'm going to come in and I'm going to tap in a few dark marks that are suggestive of tracks and stuff coming through the water and the mud here. They sort of just tap into some of these lighter marks. They are just giving bits of information moving forward, quite a bit warmer than I have it. And as I say, they're just leaving little bits of information. I'm picking up a lot of blue that I don't want. I don't know where that's coming from. I'm going to pick up some blue which I thought was one colour and pick up some of that. Make it quite a red blue. I think at some point I've mixed a little bit of my phthalo blue or green together. In fact, that's exactly what I do. That's my phthalo green I'm mixing in. I see my mistake. Alright, so let's clear that mix out of it. Let's keep out of that because it is affecting this. See how strong that dominant that green is. So I am going to get rid of this colour. You can see how powerful it is. Get rid of that. And let us clean up that side as well. So put the brush down. And just want to take some of this off here. It's very much a big influence. And I wasn't aware of what I was doing. And I didn't see the fact that I'd actually cut into that other mix. What I'm going to do is just pour out a little bit more blue. But quite in a different place to that other lot. It's quite contaminated. So I'm going to put some blue there anyway. I'm going to put a little bit of my burnt sienna. No, that's not contaminated, so I'm not too worried about that. So let's just come back in, let's clean our brush, let's start that mix process once again. And let's go back in with some umber, some reds as it were, and some blues. Now we're starting to get it right. A little bit of stuff on there, a little bit of English distill just to make it move a little bit. See how that is. That's quite a nice start now, but without the influence of green. I didn't realise to begin with what I was doing, but then I suddenly saw the green in here. Makes all the difference to what you're trying to do. So let's just come across that bit of green there. I've seen it. Mix that out, get rid of that. Come back in. Let's come back in and let's try and get where we want to be with this. A bit more red. A bit more warmth. Just trying to suggest the sort of areas of the mud and the way that the tracks, little trails of darks and lights that run through into the water. Don't want to get overly bothered with this, just enough to suggest what's going on. Right. Little hard edges coming through, little taps, little suggestions that there are little bits of the mud that are showing above, shallower bits of water. Say for instance here you can just have a little bit of mud there and then just like so, joining up with that. Just small indicators, small little arrows pointing the way forward for the viewer to enjoy the painting. Just drag some of those off into there, like so, correspondingly. This here has gone missing, so let's just put a dark mark in there, why not? And maybe a bit more warmth. almost tempted to put a bit of orange in. I think I will actually, certainly on this side. It's just catching a little bit of the sun maybe at that point. I just love this area because I mean it's such a dramatic tidal flow each day, twice a day I believe, and yeah, the pub is right at the top of the high water. You can stand underneath the pub window at low tide, but at high tide it's slapping around the bottom of the window. It's quite amazing really, but I love it. And it's called the Button Oyster, so if you're ever in the area there to Pin Mill, then go and have a look at it. It's a beautiful pub, and it's been a few years since I've been there, but it was certainly, the people were very, very accommodating, very, very kind people that were running it back then. And if they're still the same people, well worth a visit. Right, and I'm tapping around. I'm not trying to emulate anything. I'm just trying to get the general sense of it, as I said just now. I'm not even worried about getting rid of all the background colour, this pinky brown colour. It to me it's sort of quite exciting as well. It actually helps form some marks within the painting at the end of it, so don't be too disturbed by leaving bits like that, because sometimes they really do work very, very well. I'm just picking up and I'm looking at tapers. I'm looking at receding lines and lines giving sort of directional lines that will allow you to feel that you're moving into the picture. Joining one or two of these up through here. Just a few darks on this side, a little bit devoid of some up here. And put one or two marks in through here. And try and make a few of them warmer, if I can pick up the colour as I'm going. A little bit warmer, just to work in complement to the blue violets that are already in place. I quite like the way that that works. And then once I've got this bit done, I think we're pretty much sort of set just to put the final bits of detail of the vessel in and call it a day. A break up in there, it's a little bit sparse of information. A few darks through there. A few warm, kind of come in with some of that orange again. Just picking up some little warm colours, taps into some of these blue violets again, just to suggest that the mud is given away to a few warmer colours from the sun. Maybe even tap in some orange, a little bit lighter still, not too much, don't want to overdo it, just allowing the sense of warmth from the evening light to pop in places and suggest that that's what's happening. Maybe one or two in here just to begin the same process down in this area. Okay. Tapping a few warms in here as well. Won't hurt. They're not necessarily there, but they are well worth just sticking one or two in. Just adds the differences between the blues and the oranges. Just one or two in there too. I quite like that. Those oranges actually are picking up and creating such a nice light effect, to be honest with you. I'm going to bring in one or two more. I've got to be careful now because it's very easily overdone. I think it's just allowing a sense of light, evening light, to catch on some of these cooler colours. Helps break it up as well, helps excite the whole thing. And like I said, don't overdo it. Very close to overdoing it, so I'm going to stop there. Alright, so now I'm going to come back with my darks, and I'm going to be very careful because I'm going to be putting the posts in. I'm going to try and remember exactly where they want to be, so I'm going to put one in down through there and recharge my brush each time. Put another one in down through there, and I'm going to put the big tall one. I think there's actually two there, but there's a much taller one here. And I'm going to put that in there, like that. And I think there is a small one right next to it there. I'm going to put that in. There is some apparatus on the top of this one, like a bit of a flag boom, and some pulleys and some ropes hanging down there. So I'm going to suggest those. And then, so we've got some thicker posts, thicker poles on this side. And let's put those 4 in. So we've got one here, one. Again, recharge, another one, single strokes, there's another one there which is just above, in fact these want to be a little taller, and this one can be there, not quite in the right mark, but then another one there, right on the edge. That could be a mistake because the frame is going to half cover that, so that could have been probably best to have omitted that one, but it's in there. I'm going to leave it, not going to worry about it. I'm just going to put in now the corresponding reflections where I think they should be in some of this water. Put a bit more fluid to the mix so it comes off, dances off the brush a little bit easier, like that, and like that in there. They don't come down into this puddle, they sort of stop quite early on, they're not very long. So just a couple in there, like that. And you don't really see too many of these others, maybe that one there, let's put that one in. Okay, now the poles themselves have also got a very much of a light aspect to them. So let's run our lovely orange and yellow together here. Again, we're going to be using some fluid to make it come off the brush. A bit of light, it's gone very, very dull. And if you want it lighter, you can do, but it's quite a dull mix overall. It may look bright, but it's not that bright. I'm going to put in a suggested light down the side of these. And on these ones, of course, these are thicker. I'm taking my time with these. I want to rush them. Okay, that's the post, that's done. Now, if anything, I feel that these should be a little higher. And these ones, if anything, should come out of it a bit. And I will just come back in with a little bit of my sky colour, if I can just generate enough without messing everything up. This is when you do wish you'd left well alone. But hopefully we will just get enough out of that to make that work. Slight repair to the area. Okay, I'll live with that. If I want to be really careful, I'll just poke this one above so it looks like it was meant to be so. There you go. Alright, I just wanted a bit of a difference between the two sets of posts, that was all. But with that, we're fine, we're done. Now I'm going to put in just a few vessels, just a few pale colours, boats out in the water. So I'm going to put a couple of marks in there with one colour, maybe a little bit of a light colour on one or two, like that. Something of that nature. And then some darker blues just to sit underneath them. Not all of them. Let's make that one a darker one anyway. Don't want too many. There's a lot out there. We don't need to put each and every one in. Just merely an indication of what's there. I'm going to put a few marks in. Just quick marks like so. Another one there, and just a small one for that one. That's all it needs to be. Doesn't need to be too much going on. Just indications of vessels out in the area. Okay, let's concentrate now finally on our vessel itself. Let's just put a brush down, pick up, I think there's a nice bit of violet blue on there. It's going to come with a bit more blue. Just come off to one side, a bit more pale colour violet blue in there. And I just want to come in there with this rear part. Let's put that in. And we are almost done. So that's in, sorted. Now I'm going to use the same colour on that line. Now that lovely line, it runs around these two shapes. I'm going to try and put it in one hit. Just an indication up to there. And mine's a little bit spindly, but let's just pick it up if we can, carefully. And just gently bring that up into that plane. And then we pick it up again, way back down here. And up to there. Again, it just goes off a little bit through here. Let's just try and pick it up to there. Then of course we've got the other side, but the other side is catching some sun. So it goes back through there and then down there somewhere like that. Probably not quite the right place, but it's not far off. I'm going to put a bit of warmth together, a little bit of that yellow colour. I just want to suggest here we've got that rope coming down through the buoy, so let's just bring that down through there. And it's going to catch a little bit of light in places. And then we're going to carry on down through there. And it comes down to meet that part there. Not so bad. That's not bad at all. Quite happy with that. Just want to see if I can get that dart back in under that bottom end of the vessel. Just about there. Lost out a little bit there, so I'm just going to try and put that in. Bring that through there. That's the trouble. It's very, very thin paint and it's starting to pick up as I move it around a bit more. So I'm going to probably have to settle for what I've got there and be done with that and not worry too much about it. I've got a sleeve full of wet white paint, not a problem with that either. Alright, now we've got one or two bits and pieces to finish off with on the top end of the boat, and I'm going to start with just putting a little pale blue line through there, and just to break up the edge there is the name tag for Petula, which I'm not going to try and print the name. I know what it is, I might indicate it, but there it is, the sort of pale greenish darkish coloured nameplate. Let's just put that as a base and let's just put the colour in there like that. Okay, so we can suggest the name further in. A few colours of green taps, something up there that's like a barrel or something, I have no idea what it is. And that will probably be it. Just one or two bits and pieces on the edge of the beautiful, these, I'm mumbling, sorry, I knew what I wanted to say. It's just the light catches these beautiful sails on these vessels, and they are sort of the sublime terracotta colour, these sails, these canvases, and this one must be catching a little bit of that light in that evening sun, so it doesn't seem to suggest it too much in the photo, but for my painting I'm going to put a little bit of that in because I quite like the idea of that catching a bit of light, a bit of warmth. And there is of course a little bit of light anyway, so I'm going to put a bit of orange, a bit of yellow together and just catching a little bit of light down the side of the mast. Now this you really do want to be quite careful about, because obviously the mast is a big straight pole and it won't have too many kinks in it like mine. So try and avoid the kinks. But yeah, it is what it is. Don't get hung up on it, just enjoy it. I'm going to put one through there for this one, and that down. That has got a bend in it. I can see that's got a bend in it. Never mind, let's straighten it up. Yeah, straightened out. I'm going to come back in with that one with the dark side to it, just to reinforce that wrapped up sheet there. Let's come down the side here, and that way I can also straighten out my very bent mast there. That works, I hope. If it doesn't, it's hard luck. It's going to stay that way. I'm going to put a bit dark in the top end of it there and there. Right, do I need to do any more? Well, I think this is doing all it needs to do. Just straighten that up a little bit as it comes down to that area. Sorted. And one of the last few things, we've got a lot of rigging. I will put some suggestion of rigging lines in like so, and other different ropes that are hanging down. Now please don't count the ropes, I'm not, so be sure not to. They are going to come down always through, past, beyond, into and I forgot these ones here, so let's come in, let's put that line down through there to there, and we've got another line which is going to come up through there down to there, and there is quite a bit of block and tackle type affair there, and we've got that rope coming up to there which is just laying something else at the edge on there. Little bits of information, doesn't have to be too much to tell the story, just little taps of stuff that suggest enough. And we've got quite a bit of a shape of something in here which is going to go grey. It's not going to be dark because of all the material underneath it. I'm going to straighten it up across there and put that in. I have no idea what it is. And the sort of bits of block and tackle stuff here, like that. A little thicker bit of information on there. And bits of sort of leading blocks coming up from cables and wires and loads of stuff, loads and loads and loads. So I'm coming this way, and this one has stuff coming out through here. I'm freehanding all of this. I mean, you could use all sorts of devices, straight edge type stuff. Didn't want to go through there, that. Quite like that. Don't want to mess that up. But actually, it should come darker there anyway. I've just seen that. So there's quite a bit of dark material up through there on the back of the vessel, which can't make it out. As I said earlier, I can't make out what all that information is. I'm going to put it in a mid-tone, let that come up through there. And then I can put in things like the wheel. So I'm going to make as dark as I can with a bit more fluid to make the stuff come off the brush easily. And I put a little bit of my colour is not quite light enough behind it to really show it off, but it's enough to tell you that it's a wheel. Just if I can put the little few handles on to suggest that it is a wheel of sorts. Alright, and yeah, there's loads of stuff, but I mean it just depends how far you want to go with this. I'm just putting in a few suggestions of cables, and there's so much rigging. And I think we've pretty much got enough done. and of course the two derricks on the back. Like that, and block and tackle off of each one, which holds the little tender when the because obviously sometimes these are out on the estuaries and they have to sit on the bottom of the mob where they get to, as it were, and then the captain and the mate would set about lowering the little dinghy to reach shore. That's how it would work. I put a little bit of light through there, get rid of some of that warmth just through there. Seem to remember that's how it should be. And these poles actually come down just a little deeper into a dark area here, which I guess is the end of the hard. Something like that. Okay, well, I don't know. I quite like what we've got. Everything can be improved, either with time or with a lot more work on it. But I'm quite happy with where we're at with this. I'm going to put a little bit of light across there and there. Not quite like that, but too much. Now I've got to get rid of that mark. Ah dear. Come on. There we go. Because when you go a little too far, you don't really end up causing yourself a bit of problems. I'm just going to quickly clean off the dagger, which is a nice blending blush at times when you get it right. Just dry it off. And just clean up that area one last time. There we are. Okay, so I think we're done and dusted. I know I have done, haven't done yet. I'm going to put a few boats up through here, which I haven't put in. Just one or two suggestions of yachts anchored up in the area. One, two, another one, another couple. Nothing too much. Just a few suggestions and a few masts to boot. There we go. So we've got boats up through the estuary as well. They're a little bit more silhouetted because unlike these, the sun is on them this way. Here you're looking towards the sun more, so they're going to be in silhouette. Alright, so I think we're pretty much done. I've enjoyed this. It's been a lot of fun. I don't quite where to sign it. I'm going to sign it down here out of the way. There we go. Signed. Sorted. And what I haven't done, again, I keep seeing bits, that I haven't done any of these reflections. How bad is that? So let's going to put in some reflections through here of the vessel itself, which I've omitted. And there's a few of the ropes coming up, which you can see through in there. Top end of the derricks, we can just see those. Tiny suggestions, that's all it is. A couple of lines coming up this way. Lots more lines coming this way. And how much of the mast? We actually just, it's right down in here, but it's a great big mass of dark colours, warms, mainly warms, but lots of dark coming right off the page at this point. You don't see too much of it. What you do see more of are all sort of lines and bits like that that are going everywhere at this point. But they do give that little extra bit of influence to the painting. There's a few darks here, but then they give rise to the edges of that mud at that point. So let's just finish that off, and I think we can conclude. There we are. I don't think I've missed too much out. I hope not. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you got something from it. And I was going to say earlier that if you plan on painting this yourself, the reference material I will put on my Patreon. It's free for you to download and learn from. I've got no problems with that at all. Enjoy the processes and refer back to this as many times as you wish to, and you can watch this as many times as you like. And yeah, so until the next video next Friday at 3 o'clock, I bid you farewell. Happy painting, stay safe wherever you are, and have fun. All of those things. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.
Heading back to what used to be home, passing by those little towns I know so well, stopping for gas and then I'm behind the wheel again. Driving this like a spiritual cleanse, where every mile is a new beginning and every bend holds a new end. Eyes on the road, don't lose control. I'm speeding fast to chase my soul.